Okay, everybody, Sean Carlson from Blackjack 98 Enterprises. Today's date is Sunday, June the 11th. This is my next project. This one was given to me by one of my customers that I fixed his rewind for on his lawnmower. As you can tell, it's a very old one. When I hit the trigger, you can see that the throttle works on the carburetor, so that's a good sign. It's a curved shaft. So let me see if I can pull up on here. Ooh, I sort of can. Oh, look at that, I can. So if I'm able to do this and it makes that sound, that means the flywheel is turning freely and it is not caught on the ignition coil. It also means that the piston is free inside the cylinder. And it means all the moving components are doing exactly what you're supposed to. So I'm going to flip this around. Okay, my glass of rum. There is all the information that I need to know about this weed whacker. But what we are going to do is we are going to do a complete tear down and rebuild of this. So everything that you see here is going to be, oh, well, look at that. The fuel lines are cut off. So yeah, we'll put new fuel lines, we'll put in a new barber bulb, we'll clean out the carburetor, we'll clean out the air filter, we will clean out the gas tank, we will check it for leaks. The housing we will take off completely, we will look at the cylinder, the spark plug, and the throttle cable. We'll get a good look at that. The carburetor assembly, everything. This will be completely taken apart. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this shaft will be greased too. Yeah, that will come out completely out, and we are going to work on that right now. Okay, so after having taken out the four screw bolts that were in the back there, just fell off when I went to turn it around. So let's have a look at the rear end here. And as you can see, there's a gasket right here. And that gasket looks like it's intact. So we're not going to mess around with that gasket too much, but we are going to remove it very carefully. As a result of the fuel lines not being connected, this here is one entire unit. Okay, so the gas tank attaches to this part with these two screws here. This cannot come off any other way unless those four come off on the outside and you disconnect the gas lines. You can only access it through that point right there, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the gas tank off of this and clean it out. As you can tell, there's something in there. My guess, that would be the oil or the fuel filter. So this is going to be all cleaned up. Those fuel lines are going to be removed. I'm going to open that up, and we're going to test this for a leak. We're going to put some water in here and test it for leakage. And then I'm just going to put that aside right there. And then this part come off, the air filter, the carburetor, the sleeve here with some gasket material. And then we're going to try to take this part off here too. This part looks like it comes off, hold on, yeah. Looks like it's got to come off, going this way. So we're going to have a look at that later. Okay, so having uncovered the air filter cover, this will come out, and you're going to notice this here. This prevents the fuel filter from pressing up against this. So those two screws is what are holding everything together. Those are going to come out as well. Once you get this removed from the carburetor, pay very close attention to those two screws. Okay, you see one has washers on it. That one with the washers on it goes right there. And what that does is it is holding the choke lever. Okay, the choke lever is attached directly to the air filter housing. It has nothing to do with the carburetor. Lots of chokes that are on the carburetor are butterfly valves. This one is not. It's just like a still where it's attached to the air filter housing. That's what it looks like. Okay, so Put that aside. Make a very special note of this one in particular. It goes right in the middle there. And put these aside. And now the carburetor is ready to come out. Just going to loosen it off a little bit. We're going to take it out. That was pretty simple. Now we're just going to do a visual of it. Okay. There's the gasket. Take note of the gasket, the hole in the top. There is numbers right beside that hole there, and this one is WA226 E7. Let's look at the bottom. There's no numbers on here. Let's look at the top. Okay, let's press that primer bulb. The primer bulb feels pretty stiff. It looks like it would work, but we're going to replace that anyways. Everything that is inside this carburetor is going to come undone. And look at that, there's a name right there. You see that name says Walbro? This is an original carburetor by Walbro. Always look for the original manufacturer name on all carburetors. If there's no name or marking, it is a cheap Chinese knockoff. We're going to put that right there. And now we got two more to take out, which is right here and right here. That holds this together, which is direct access to the air intake. I'm going to take that out. Okay, so after we got this out, you see those two holes right there? That one and that one. That's what those two screws came out of. When I pulled this out, I kind of shredded the gasket right there in the two pieces. You can see that. Okay? So that's not a big deal because I can carefully peel that off and trace out another one. But be very mindful that there's holes. There's a hole right there and a hole right there. Those holes have to match up, and that gasket cannot be plugged up when you're putting it in there. So be very mindful of everything with the holes of this piece right here, okay? Now, what I went and done is I went and took out the screws from here, here, and the other side. So now this engine is pretty much loose. I think I can pull it out. So I'm going to take off the spark plug boot. Oh yeah, we're coming out. Here we go. Okay. Everything aside. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just got to disconnect those two wires. I'm going to take a picture, making a mental note with my pictures, how they attach, and take off the boot here. And then this engine is going to be free and clear. And we're going to have a better look at the engine. Alright, so we have the engine out from there. So let's have a good look. It's a bit dirty. I'm going to clean out all the gunk. Take that gasket off. I'm going to take the muffler off. There's rust on that muffler. Degrease everything. Took the spark plug off, by the way. This is the spark plug right here. Be very mindful of the spark plug in particular. It needs to be the right one. The shaft on here can be longer, and if you stick it into there, the piston will hit this part here, and you'll find out that it will not turn, because the piston will only goes one way with the rewind, and it will not turn. Okay, if you ever have that problem, that could be why you have the wrong spark plug. We're also going to take this ignition coil off too, and we will test it, and then we'll put it back onto here and just clean everything all up. Now this part here, the wiring, these are the two wires on the switches. So this part here, this was attached to there. I just took that screw completely out just so that wire could come out. Okay, this one attaches to the slot right there. Okay, we're going to clean out the entire inside of this. That switch is going to come out. I'm going to take out the inside of the shaft so we can look at that and grease it. We're also going to take off this part here, have it analyze that. As you can tell, when I hit the throttle, it goes up and down. It's supposed to like that, so we're going to grease this line too. Okay, and so for starters, we're going to take off the ignition coil. And we're going to take off the muffler and that gasket, and we're going to take a good look at everything. So, here we go. Okay, so this is everything all taken apart of the carburetor. A lot of you are probably cringing because you would not even know where to start. But because I worked on this model so many times, I actually do know where to start. So, what we're going to look at the inside of the piston here. I don't know if you can see it too well. That angle. Here we go. So, I'm going to prop this up a little bit better. Okay, so if you can see into that piston coming up, it's coming up. You see that? It's coming up, it's going down. Now, this here is the exhaust. What we're looking for is streaks, lines, damage. And there is none. This is the exhaust. Now we're going to look at the carburetor part. Same thing. Let me see if you can get a good look at it. Okay, it's coming down. We're looking for lines, streaks, damage on the piston. If there's damage on the piston, there could be damage on the walls. And I can see none. Okay, so now we're just gonna do a feel test. So we're just gonna turn this around one way. There's no resistance going this way, and there is no resistance going this way. Technically, this goes up and down freely, and what I could have done was I could have done a pressure test on the cylinder before I took this all apart, but that's fine. We're going to do that when we put this all back together. In the event that any of you wanted to take the cylinder head off, this is the cylinder head, and it separates at this point right here. There's a nut right there which is accessible through that hole. The other one is accessible through that hole. There's only two holding them down, and they are very tight. I don't really want to take those apart right now because there seems to be nothing wrong with any aspect of this engine. Even when I look at the bottom here, I can see that there is zero damage in the cylinder anywhere. Okay? So what that tells me is there is nothing wrong with this engine or the cylinder head. Not even in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this aside, and now I'm going to clean every single individual piece of this, and we're going to do another video regarding the cleaning of this and a rebuild of that. Everything else gets cleaned, wiped. So let's start with the gas tank. Okay, so we're going to have a very good look at the carburetor and fuel tank assembly. You're going to notice that when you look at the fuel tank, this is a bigger hole, this is a smaller hole. This is 4 millimeters, this is 3 millimeters. What's the difference? Why is that? That's because when it comes to the carburetor, this one is big, this one is small. So the bigger one goes into the bigger hole, the smaller one goes into the smaller hole. So if this works just like all the others that I have taken apart, this one is the return for the fuel. That means when you press the primer bulb, fuel comes out of here, goes into the bigger hole. When you let go of the primer bulb, it sucks the gas in through here, goes through the carburetor, and then into the primer bulb. And then, so this small hole is attached to the fuel filter. Now let's look at the fuel filter. This is the original fuel filter that came with it. You don't necessarily have to look for the exact same one, but you can see that from the garbage ones here, this one here is the smaller one. This somehow fit onto there, and there's a little fitting that has to do with that. So this here is the bridge fitting for these tubes, which hook onto this if you need to replace it. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one of my replacement tubes, go from the fuel tank through the hole to the carburetor, and then replace this straight through there. So 2 tubes only, and I will not be using this. These here garbage, they are so brittle that you can just like not so much pressure and just snap it. See that? How it's cracking like that? Okay, that's very old. This one is going to be discontinued too. We're going to take this out and put a brand new one in. We are now going to, we're going to do a water test on this. We're going to fill this up with water. We're going to plug those 2 holes and we're going to look for leaks. When it comes to the gas cap here, there's a part that goes into the very middle, and that is this. This is the relief valve. This lets the air into the gas tank so that way the gas can go into the carburetor. This fits directly right into the middle there. And if you look on the outside, there's a little hole. That hole lets air into the gas tank, and it's a one-way valve type of little part, so don't lose that. Okay, so we're going to do a water test on this first before we move on to the carburetor. Okay, so this is our setup. This is the gas tank. There's our water. We got it made so that way when we fill it up with water we can see if it's leaking. Okay, so here we go. Making sure that we don't spill. Water's going in. We are looking for leaks, and yes, there is something leaking. Look at that. We have a leak. Where is it coming from? Well, it's not leaking anymore, but it was. I'm very confused now. Maybe it was coming out of those holes there. Okay. Let's try to do, let's try to do something different here. Let's do it again. Okay, I gotta prop this up a little bit better. Okay, so what I went and did was unplug those holes up with tape, and then I filled this up with water. As you can see, there's no leakage anywhere. So I'm gonna plug the top, now I'm gonna shake it. Looking for leaks. Nothing is dripping, therefore this is a good fuel tank. There's no leaks anywhere. It's perfect. Now, we're going to look at this part here. Remember I said that this lets air in? If you do not have that part in there, like I said, the gas is going to come out. So let me show you. When there's enough pressure in there, it's leaking. See, there's a drop already coming out. See that? It's not supposed to do that. So air is supposed to go in, nothing is supposed to come out. And gas will leak out of there if you store it in the wrong position. So I'm going to put this part back into that hole there, and this is a good gas tank. Now we're going to move on to the carburetor. Okay, so this is our carburetor all taken apart. Pay very close attention to every single detail of screw that you have here when you're taking it apart. This here needs to be replaced. I just happen to have a part to replace that. It's not a big deal. This part here, unfortunately, I do not have a replacement for. This is a very special one. So, because this one is pretty much intact, I would say there's not a whole lot wrong with it. I peeled it off very carefully. I'm going to order a new one anyways, but we're going to put this one in only as the original piece. When it comes to the carburetor, you can see there's a little bit of dirt and stuff that is inside. I just found out there's only one jet, and that is the low speed one, so that's the idle. The high speed one has been blocked off, so they don't want anybody adjusting it, so it's set. The speed on that weed whacker is set. I gotta do some cleaning more in here. I gotta take those out. And yeah, so this is, pay attention to the numbers. This is WA226. That gives you the carburetor number if you need to order parts for it, which I actually do. This part here I left on. When you are messing around with this, pay attention to the hole there and the hole there. That one there is important. that is letting the fuel into the carburetor, or the air. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flush out these lines here with brake cleaner. I'm going to flush out this here part 2. Yes. And once I get everything all good to go, we're going to test the carburetor for fuel flow. I'll show you how to do that. Okay everybody, so now we're going to see if the carburetor drinks gas like it's supposed to when you hit the primer bulb. Now this primer bulb is still the old primer bulb, and I did a heavy duty squish test onto it, and this is pretty durable. So when you press down, it's not breaking. Like, I did every test I could onto this primer bulb and it's pretty durable, so I'm not going to replace it. I could, but I'm not going to. Everything is put back together, and this is the old part that I replaced. I did have a whole bunch of these laying around, and I was able to get it replaced with the exact same ones. So now we're going to put these into our solution, our mixed gas solution. I'm going to put it right there, and gas is going to go up one end and it's going to go out the other. My guess is this line right here that is attached to the top one is where the gas will be leaving, and the gas will be coming in through this line here. Okay, and I have a whole arsenal of gas lines, so this test should work if it's the way it's supposed to. So we're going to put this one in, and we're going to put this one right there. You know what? I got some alligator clips. Let me secure these down. Okay, so here we go again. I just made a few minor adjustments, which I'll talk about later. But I'm going to press this down, and we're going to watch the action happen. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. See that? And then should be coming out. Right now it's going through the carburetor, and now it's coming out. Yes. You see some air bubbles right now, and that's just because it's setting in. I'm getting everything all working. Fuel is going through like it's supposed to. When you have an airtight carburetor, there will be zero air going in or out. So let's say that the fuel line was hooked up to this. If there was air inside this fuel line coming in, it wouldn't work right and it would sputter. And when you push out, there should be a solid fluid coming out of here. So I'm going to tell you guys the small adjustment that I made. I'm going to look at it here. You see this jet right there? I took that out, and then I went and blew it out, and that seemed to work. Not to mention, the seal between the gasket and this part of the block needs to be airtight. So I used a little bit of grease right there, put it on the gasket, and then sealed it tight. It's supposed to be an airtight seal with this bottom part here, and that's the only reason why it's drinking nicely. Okay, so fuel's coming in, fuel's going out, in, out, and zero bubbles in the line. This is how you know that you have a perfect carburetor that is drinking properly. Everything that is in this carburetor has to be taken out, flushed out with the air compressor. All the lines, including the jet right there, needs to be taken out and cleaned thoroughly. So now we're going to disconnect these lines, and we're going to hook up the right lines to the fuel tank, and then slowly clean all of those and put them together. Okay, remember me saying I needed to replace this part because I tore it? Well, here it is. Just by using hole punchers and a new material, I wouldn't create another one. You all may think it's crude, but it still does the job of getting air into the carburetor. When it comes time to put this part back onto here, there needs to be an airtight seal around this surface. This is what is creating the pressure that the piston needs to suck the air in through this hole here. There's a little hole right there. Okay, that's extremely important. That hooks up to the carburetor, which the fuel comes in. Air goes into here, fuel here. Okay, this gasket right here is extremely important that you have. It is in one piece. You need that gasket. You can trace another one just like I did the other one, but if you need an extra seal, go ahead and put some gasket sealer around this face right here. It is extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. If you have zero compression, check this side before anything else. When it comes to setting the gap between the magneto ignition coil and your flywheel, some people use a gapper. So that right there is the magnet. That is a super strong magnet that attaches to, okay? Now, that is what creates the electricity in here, which creates the spark at the top of the piston. What I use is a piece of paper. This here piece of paper, it just happens to be, it looks like a receipt. Oh, look at that, it's a Safeway receipt. What have I got here? Diet Cola, Lucerne whole milk, red onions. Okay, you know what? The receipt here is just thick enough for me to create the gap inside this area. So I'm going to tuck it into there. And then I'm going to turn this flywheel so the magnet is right underneath that. Okay? And then I'm going to tighten it up. Remember, this screw right here, you need to create that connection with the on-off switch. But we're just going to get this set so that way this one can be tight. And once again, I got to put my phone down. Okay, so after successfully getting the gap set in between the magneto and the magnet, you can see that it turns freely. If you have incorrectly set this, you will find that it is hitting right there. A lot of people don't understand how to set the gap there or why you need to do that, but there needs to be a gap there. Okay, and one weed whacker I worked on, that was the only thing that was wrong with it. This was set too low and it was hitting right there like king, king, ping, king. If your engine is not turning over, this could be one of the reasons why. It's because it was incorrectly set. So we're going to move on now. Okay, so the fuel lines are being hooked up as we speak. The small line is going to the fuel filter, which is now going... Oh, you know what? Before I do that, we're going to hook the fuel line up to this one here. That one goes into there. Of course, I can't do it with one hand. This one goes in just like that. It's a nice tight seal. You need an airtight seal when it comes to fuel lines, but there's no leaks. Leaks are bad. There we go. Go. Look. Yes. There we go. Yes. Once this line is up there, then I can cinch both of them down. I'm pulling on the fuel line so it goes down straight like that. Now this one can go into there. Goes like that there. And because the return is literally sticking out right there, I'm going to pull it down a bit so that way it's nice and straight. See that? Do it again, some more. There we go. Okay, so that looks tidy. Okay, so this is all taken care of. can button that up. The engine can now go back onto the weed whacker. But you know what? Technically we can try it out, but we're not going to. We're now going to work on the weed whacker part on the shaft, and we're going to grease and oil that up. Okay, so this is the rewind. In my previous video that I did with the lawnmower, I told you guys about a notch, and that is it right there. That is used to put tension onto the line if you feel that there's any slack. Now, there's nothing wrong with this rewind when I go and pull it up and close, but I just noticed the giddy up for this is a little bit different. This is what holds the line on this side. And then, I'm assuming these two nuts right there hold this in, and the springs on the inside of this, which is underneath. There's nothing wrong with the rewind, so I'm not really going to mess around with it too much. So, we'll call that. But this is the part that makes the weed whacker work. It's got a square on both sides, and we use grease to grease this, and it goes right into that hole. So you can just tilt it up and that falls out. So what we're going to do is we are going to just put some grease along this line, put it back into there, and then we're going to look at that line right there, at that end. So we're just going to flush this out, get this nice and clean, grease this line up, and then put it back into there, and then we're going to look at the bottom, the cutter line. Okay, everybody, just before I close this end of the day today, I'm going to do a pressure check of the cylinder. So I'm going to rip on this, and then you're going to see the changes. So here we go. And that is with the choke. No, we're going to go choke off. Now we're looking at this. The needle is not moving. It's not going down. And that is how much pressure we have. About 110 after 4 pulls or 5 pulls, or whatever it was. And it's maintaining that pressure. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we have a successful rebuild. We're just going to put gas into it. Mix gas. Hit the primer bulb several times just to get the fluid running in there. I'm going to put it on choke, let it start, half choke, let it run for about a minute, then full choke, no choke, run all the way. And that is full throttle. As soon as we get to this point, we go full throttle. Okay? I'm going to put line at the end of that. And we're going to have some problems because of this jet here. I'm pretty sure I got to adjust that jet just a little bit more to make this run a little bit more efficiently. Other than that, tomorrow morning we're going to put some gas into it and see how well it works. Before I end that, look what I found. Spark plug checker. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is going to pull the boot off. Pull the boot off of this. We're going to hook this up there just like that. And the oldest one here, we're going to put into there somehow. Let me put my phone down. Okay, there we go. I'm going to pull on the cord again, and you should see a light happening. So, here we go. So yes, we do have spark. Okay, so therefore this should be a go for tomorrow morning. Alright, so now we come to the point where we're putting line onto the head, and I just found out that when you put this on, you just pull it off. I was twisting this because I thought it was screwed on like a lot of the others, just twisting forever. And it wasn't coming loose until today when I read the instruction manual. It just says firmly pull it off. So just pop it off, and that's what it looks like. So these two ends here are what is holding it in. So all you do is just put it on there and just pop it on just like that, and then pull it off in the same way. That's it. there is only one entry line on this entire thing. Some have two, but this one has one. Okay? This is the size recommended by the manufacturer according to the instruction manual. So we're going to use this and we're going to adjust the carburetor to this line here. So I'm going to cut off about 4 feet only and install it into this here. So there's markings on here which tells you which direction that it should be installed. And in this case, when you put it into that hole, it's supposed to be winding counterclockwise. And then you hook it onto this part here. You feed it in. You put it in through that line. Feed it in and then pop. And then you're good to go. That's what we're going to do. Sean P. Carlson, Blackjack 98 Enterprises. Tip of the day number 6. Pay attention to the length of the line that you put onto a customer's weed whacker, so that way when he brings it back to you and he says that he did not use it, you will see by the length of it that he did in fact use it. When you cut it, it will be a nice square cut like this, but when he uses it, it will be shred from this point here, and it'll look like a needle tip and bent and frayed a little bit all along the way. That is a good indication that he used it. Okay, tip of the day number 6. Alright, so after getting this winded onto there, this is what it should look like when you're about to put it into there. Now you're going to watch me put it into there with one hand as I hold the phone on the other, okay? That part goes into there, in that hole. Yes. Yes, there we go, there we go, there we go. I'm gonna go pop. And it's gonna go like that. And now we're gonna press the button. Because that's how much we have. We're gonna press that button. There we go. Pressing, yeah, there we go. Just letting it out. See? Press it again. There we go, letting it out some bit more. There is no cutter on this part here, so you can literally have it sticking out this far, or this far. This needs to be fixed. There needs to be a cutter on that to manage this, so we're just going to leave it at this length right here. And then now we're going to test it out. Start it. Put gas in it and start it. So the user manual says that this machine needs to have a mixed gas of 40:1, 2-cycle engine oil. So that is what I have here. This here is mixed gas. This here is alcohol. Mixed gas. Alcohol. Mixed gas. This goes into your weed whacker. This goes in your stomach. Weed whacker. Okay? 40:1, I did all the math right there to make sure that this is the correct exact mixture which we need to put into their weed whacker. We're going to put that in there, then we're going to press the primer bulb, we're going to check for any leaks anywhere in the carburetor after we installed it. Then we're going to go ahead and start it up, choke it, run it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just found something that I overlooked. When I put the gas in there and tipped it over, I had a bit of a leak coming from the cap. When I looked around the area here, I seen that there are 0 cracks, and I was wondering what the hell is going on. So when you look at this cap, inside here, right where the screwdriver is, there is supposed to be a gasket that creates the seal around the lip of the mouth. Okay, and it's not there. So I have an arsenal of stuff right here. We're going to use this one, the big one, that one there. And it doesn't exactly go onto there, but we're going to stretch it around there. I'm just going to put my phone on pause so we can get it on there. Okay, so you know how I said I was going to use this one? And I actually did. And then I thought to myself, it's too big, it's too big. And I thought your wife should be the only one saying that to you. And when I went and put it on there, it was actually just a little bit too big. So I went with a smaller one. This one here. That is this size here, okay? I put it in there, and now we're going to put it onto here, and we're going to tighten it up. And then we're going to tip it over and look for any leaks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there's 0 leaks, even if I shake it. Okay, so there we go. 0 leaks coming out of the gas tank because of those parts there that were not into the cap. You really got to pay attention to that. Starting procedures for your weed whacker. On certain weed whackers, you will have full choke, you will have half choke, and you will have off choke. Sometimes you will have an on-off switch, but this one is continuously on, and this button here only turns it off. Okay? So, what you need to do is turn it on. This one doesn't have an on switch like I just said. And then what you need to do is you need to hit the primer bulb. Make sure that when you hit the primer bulb, you can watch the fuel go in and out, like you're doing right here. If you just put gas into it, if you just rebuilt the carburetor, the fuel needs to go in and out of the carburetor, and you need to press this like several hundred times. Press, 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 press. Press, 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 press. Okay, so I just replaced the freaking stupid primer bulb, because remember how I said that I did all the tests on this one? Well, look what happened overnight. I don't know what the hell happened, but I just pressed it down and it cracked on me and I had a gas leak everywhere. So, luckily for me, I was using a rag. So the gas leaked onto this. It's not going to create a hazard. So, when everything is working perfectly, there should be a small bubble in the primer bulb after you have pressed it a gazillion times. Normally, you only need to press it 3 times to get it started. After that, quit pressing it, okay? The fuel is going in there exactly like it should in the carburetor, and now it is ready to go. When you start it in choke. You're going to go pull, pull, go. Okay, then you put it in half choke, like that. You're going to see me do that. Then you're going to hit it again. Brum. It's either going to start right then or you're going to do it again. Brum. Okay, so when it does that, do not hit this until a minute. Let this warm up for a minute doing that. Okay, it's supposed to idle. If it shuts off immediately after you idle it, then it keeps doing that. You need to adjust this part right here. So you got to take this orange cap off. You need to stick your screwdriver onto that and turn it in or out. Okay, depending on the noise. And you got to adjust it. That might be what I will have to do on this one when I am starting it. It may or may not run right away on a setting that is already there, but we are going to find that out. Just in case it does start fine, then it'll idle, and that head over there will move or not. After a minute, then put it on full. If everything is working correctly, you'll hear a higher rev, and then you can hit the throttle. Technically, you can hit the throttle at half choke too and let it run, but only after a minute. Then you can put it on no choke or off choke. Then that means 100% of the air is going through the carburetor into the engine, and it is maximum power when you hit this all the way. Okay, so let me get my camera positioned in a way that you can all watch me do it. 1 3/4. Okay everybody, so let me explain what it is that you see me do, because I just looked at my camera footage and you could not see my face. The first attempt that you seen me was trying to start it on choke. It wasn't going full choke, so I put it on half. That was when you seen it start up just a little bit. And then I went and put it on off choke, and then it cut off and died under me a little bit there. Then I put it back on half choke. Then you seen me adjust a little bit, right? So what I did was I turned it in all the way in until it stopped, and then I pulled out the screw about a turn and 3/4. And then you seen me use this, and I adjusted the speed according to the revs. So now that is set, but when you seen me at idle, what I need to do is then I need to hit that screw now with the screwdriver. So that would be it. Now, I have to be honest with you, it is one thing to watch me start it and get it running. It is another thing to watch me in action doing the cutting on lines, like on the actual grass. So that's what we're going to do. We're now going to take this to a location and we're going to cut some grass. So here we go.
Rolling.
Okay, so I'm going to cut the grass here at my neighbor's place. We're going to start right here. Going to go along there. We're going to start right there after and go over here. As you can see, the type of grass there's here is like really hard stuff. This is only a 17 cubic centimeter engine. It might not cut this stuff here, but you will see for yourself what it will cut for the strength of the line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start it up. I got a prickle. Ouch, that hurts. So I'm going to start it up. I'm going to adjust the throttle, the idle on this, and then I'm going to start cutting, so this will be a good video for you. Here we go. Full choke. You see, heard it start just a little bit. We're going to put it on half choke. Hit the throttle. That's what we're looking for. I'm going to go cutting. Hit the off button. So now we know the off button works. So it looks like everybody, I ran out of line. Remember I only said I put 4 feet on there. Well, when you watched me cutting it just now, that thickness of the freaking grass used up my line. So do not use this for heavy grass like that. This stuff is only meant for like light silky grass like this stuff right here. or maybe what you have right here. But when it comes to big, heavy duty, thick shit, this weed whacker is not meant for that. I do have heavier weed whackers, but as you can see, it did a very good job for just a little bit for that this was exposed to. So my recommendation is do not change the line according to the manufacturer's instructions. I used 0.065, that is what it got me for that stuff there. I only put 4 feet on there, and now I gotta put some more line on there. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, this weed whacker is ready to give back to the customer, and that is Blackjack 98 Enterprises. My name is Sean Carlson. Thank you for watching.